Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from others' experiences. I'm Kevin Brent, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Jojo Smith, who's the founder of CreativSAS. Jojo brings over 20 years of corporate business development experience and has now dedicated her efforts to helping entrepreneurs to build impactful brands and businesses through creativity, self-awareness and strategy. And we'll delve into how being true to oneself can help to attract the right clients and stand out in the market. And we discuss Jojo's really inspiring vision for a children's home enterprise to mentor young entrepreneurs from the care system. And make sure you don't miss any future episodes by subscribing to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. You can also nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio like Jojo if you know someone with an interesting scale-up story, and you can find out how in the show notes. For now, continue on and listen in for the full story from Jojo. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted today to be joined by Jojo Smith, who is the founder of CreativSAS. So Jojo, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm really looking forward to this. You know, when somebody describes themselves on a LinkedIn profile as sassy, then we know we're going to be in for a good discussion, don't we? So excellent. So tell us about CreativSAS. What's that all about? What does the business do?
The business builds brands and businesses and key people of influence for purposeful impact. We are all about bringing lively, bold, full of spirit and a little bit cheeky, purposeful entrepreneurs to really step into their full potential. And it's very much a legacy creation kind of business, because so many businesses, so many entrepreneurs may be successful and successful in all the areas financially. You know, they may be really big in their field, they may have authority in their field, but sometimes it's really hard to be happy and successful as well. And happiness comes from true inner fulfillment, and purposeful fulfillment is my own belief. So it's really about being intentional from the get-go and looking at the brand and vision. We're a brand and vision agency, ultimately.
Okay.
But it's really about building that brand and that vision for purposeful impact. CreativSAS is built on a very innovative and hopefully revolutionary state of play, which is creativity, self-awareness and strategy together. If you bring that into your life and business, then you really can create a life that serves you, serving others.
Brilliant. And you must be doing something right, standing out, because I think you were shortlisted for the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, weren't you? So
yes, I was a finalist last year for Great British Entrepreneur, which was a huge accolade for myself and for CreativSAS, because we're really a toddler business. We're 4.5 years old.
Right. And how big's the team now?
There's 3 of us. 2 of those are freelancers. So really you could say it's still a team of 1, but the freelancers that are in the business are committed. They do almost full time. And they are phenomenal. And I have lots of other sort of freelancers as well that do sort of other part-time roles, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So there's only so much one person can do.
Absolutely. And we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. And I noticed you've worked with some fairly well-known brands.
I have.
Yeah, so give us some examples of the ones that you can, you know, because that's quite impressive for a young business, some of those brands.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends how you look at it, because I've been featured with quite a few brands. So I've had a fair bit of PR, because there's a purposeful part of my business which has a lot to do with my backstory. I'm a care experienced person, so I was brought up in care from 18 months through to 18 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
Building my business with my big wish, my big purposeful legacy is all about creating something in the future that will really assist and help care experienced people. So there's lots of brands that I've worked with from a PR point of view. I've been in OK Magazine, I've been in Platinum, the Daily Express, lots of different Woman's Own, Feel Good magazine. So there's lots of brands there that I've worked with. As for working with brands, I've worked with blue chip independents and some celebrity brands as well. So blue chip, can't really say too much because I'm under NDA, but you've probably had a parcel delivered by them.
Right.
They are on my trust tags. Do you know what? I'll call them AMASAS. I created a great encouragement and acknowledgement pin badge for some of their staff. So that was all about staff recognition. So created that from start to finish, from design through to delivery. And also from celebrity wise, I am a brand ambassador for Jules Robinson, if anybody knows her. She was in Maths. Are you aware of Maths? Married at First Sight Australia?
I'm not sure I am, I'm afraid, no.
She's an international celebrity businesswoman who founded a shapewear brand called Figure. Right. And it was because she was trolled online for her size.
Okay. Yeah.
And she created this shapewear brand that was comfortable. It was very sassy. And last year I did a collaboration with her and some other women where she launched her brand over in the UK. And it was all about sexy being a mindset, not a size.
Yep.
And we actually went around the whole of London in nothing but our shapewear and our underwear. Very sassy, not sorry. And we've created a real kind of movement within that as well, because the whole point of my business as well is all about loving yourself beyond belief. I wrote a book 2 years ago, last year. Was it last year? I can't even remember now. Huh? Last year, and it was a #1 bestseller, and that was called Loving Yourself Beyond Belief, because right. Core of everything, the absolute core of any entrepreneur, any business, if you are not loving yourself beyond belief, if you've not got that core self-belief, then I truly don't believe your brand will amplify as well as it can, stand out as well as it can. You'll be too busy doing the should not could kind of method. So it's really important for you to be yourself, and to do that you've got to love yourself from the core. So there's a lot there. We answered a lot of questions in a small space of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got your book in there as well. So Loving Yourself Beyond Belief. That's fantastic. So, so it sounds like, I mean, on the one hand, it sounds, I was wondering whether you were working with founders of the smaller businesses.
Absolutely am. I've got, yeah.
But on the other side, you're working with the blue chips as well, and with the team. So where do you naturally fit, really, or is it really across the board?
To be honest with you, if somebody has a need to motivate, encourage, or incentivize, or leave a legacy, then that's where I am. I have a bit of a nickname as the fairy godmother of brand and vision. Okay. And that is because I truly believe you can create your wishes into reality with self-awareness and strategy. Okay. And from myself, had a corporate experience of 20 plus years of business development, and that amalgamated with a creative flair allows me to sit wherever I need. And if you think anybody could call on a fairy godmother at any point, they'll nurture, they'll encourage, and they'll absolutely get your full potential shining of what you already had. Does that make sense? You've already got everything you already need. It's just a case of encouraging it and amplifying that. But too many of us are too scared to be who we really are. So when you say, who do I sit with best? It really is whoever needs me. If there's a wish that they want to make happen, then I will stop at nothing. If you take the fairy away from fairy godmother, you end up with the godmother, and she's like a mobster mama. You know what I mean? She will stop at nothing for fearless protection.
And you play that role as well, do you?
I definitely do. When I look over the top of my glasses at my clients, they know that I mean business. I'm really in the pursuit of potential. So there's anybody really. I have got some amazing purposeful brands that I work with that are independents. We have the Hospitality Hero, we have the Beauty Rebellion, we have Oakley Recruitment, we have she's known as the Money Honey, but also known as the Manuka Media. They are all great purposeful brands that I've worked with. And I think some of them have come to me with a successful business, but not necessarily a happy and successful business.
Yeah.
And where we put the word sassy in, there's a whole reframe to sassy, because so many people think that sassy is a negative word. But actually, if you look at the dictionary definition of sassy, what it actually stands for is lively, bold, full of spirit, and a little bit cheeky.
Yeah.
And I think in life, they're great attributes to have, which is why I proclaim to be sassy, not sorry, totally unapologetic for being that. So my aim really is to help people become happy, sassy, and successful, but leading with the happy. And I think intrinsic fulfillment has a lot to do with that. So that's where purpose comes in.
Good. And I love that definition, because that is how I would have said sassy. But what you've reeled off there almost like a set of behaviors is how we behave in our business. We're lively, we're bold, we're full of spirit, and we're a little bit cheeky. That's a pretty good,
exactly that
set of behaviors that we run our business around, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly that. And I think if we can embrace that lively, bold, full of spirit, and a little bit cheeky, and the individual of all of us, like I said before, I briefly touched on it, too many people step out to be how they think they should rather than how they could. And as a business, you absolutely have to be your individual self, because if not, you're going to blend. And we want to attract and repel the people that we want or we don't want, because otherwise we'll be really unhappy in our business if we're working with, I was going to say a swear word then.
Well, you can. It'll just, we'll have to tag it as adult content.
Well, we have, it's a no knobheads clause, really. You don't want to work with knobheads, do you, on a daily basis? You want to get up out of bed and think, oh, I can't wait to work with that person. And if you're not showing up as who you really are, you're going to attract people that are not your people. Yeah. And, I absolutely hand on heart can say I have a real ideal client, dream client kind of basis. And that's because I am absolutely who I am. There's, the expectation is met from a brand expectation. When people meet me, there will be a pink bow. There will be, my car is the most instantly recognisable car you'll ever see on the road. It's black and pink with crowns on it. And the registration plate says, "Are you sassy?" So it's, it causes a bit of a stir, but it makes people happy. Or it makes people go, "Oh, look at that." Well, they're not for me, if that's the case. Or sometimes maybe they really are for me. They just need to get a little bit more lively, bold, full of spirit.
Brilliant. So what's your competition like? What's the competitive landscape like?
Okay, so firstly, and I'm not just saying this just for the sake of saying it, I don't really believe in competition. I think collaboration is huge, because we're stronger together. Two minds are better than one. So, and I think there's always room for that. But if you're on about sort of, who's out there that might be matching the same kind of vibe, if I'm honest with you, I haven't really come across anybody that is using creativity, self-awareness and strategy as a base format and modality for actually creating brands that really stand out. I do think I'll bring a completely new, different way of doing things. Yeah. And when I trademarked the word CreativSAS, I trademarked it with the intention that one day that word would be a word that everybody uses in a daily action. For me, it's a life hack. CreativSAS is a life hack, because CreativSAS stands for Creative Self-Awareness Strategy. And when you're driving somewhere sometimes and you see other people going to work when you're an entrepreneur and they don't look particularly happy, they look like they're on Groundhog Day. Yeah. And I just think if they stopped to take a moment to really become self-aware, there's a statistic, we're going off a little bit here, but there's a statistic that 95% of the population believe themselves to be self-aware. Only 15% actually are. And so that's huge. When you think about that, I got to the age of 46, I really thought I knew who I was. I'd had a marriage breakup. I'd worked within big corporate companies. I was a child of the care system. I didn't have a clue who I was till I started to do the work. I didn't really know what I wanted.
So how do we get to be self-aware then? If there's that huge gap between the people that you're saying actually are self-aware and those that think they are, how do we become self-aware?
We have to take the time to do the work. We have to dig deep. We have to stop sitting on a surface level of where we are and doing things, again, how we think we should rather than how we could for ourselves.
All right. So is that something you take people through then? Is that process of...
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what I really don't want, the reason I started my business in the first place 4.5 years ago was because my integrity was compromised and in the corporate space. And it was about the third time that it had been compromised. And being in business development, I'd worked for companies that they want to show up in a certain way, but actually they're sitting surface level, and what's going on behind the scenes isn't what's perceived on the outside.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that from an honesty point of view, because being the face of businesses and being everyday contact with people, then honesty was and integrity was one of my core values. And when I left, I was a 46-year-old female, size 22, with a shocking, what I perceived to be dodgy Brummie accent. I use kisses as full stops. My grammar is shocking, and I didn't do very well at school. So with all of these, what my brain perceived to be, how was I going to be a CEO of a company? I had zero belief, even though I was a fairly confident person, I had zero belief that I could be a CEO of a business. This is where CreativSAS, the actual modality, was bred and born and birthed, to be honest with you, because I had to come up with a way for me to believe that I could do it. When I first started out as well, my brand was absolutely not me whatsoever, because I started off how I thought I should rather than how I could. And I started out thinking, well, they won't take me seriously because I'm not very corporate and I can't be pink and all this kind of things. And my friend said to me, I said, something's missing. And he looked at me and he went, Jojo, it's pink. You're everything about pink. And I was like, no, they won't take me seriously. So I started out, and then I happened to have a conversation with a very wise person who is a mentor, but also now is one of my best friends and one of my biggest clients. I'm the creative director for one of the fastest growing self-development conferences in the UK now. And when I first went to see her, I remember putting my business card in front of her, and I said, she said, show me what you've got. And I put the business card in front of her. And as I put it down, I actually said, but it's not really me.
Yeah.
What was I doing? And she said, Jojo, let me ask you a question. What made you successful in your previous career? And I was very successful in my previous corporate careers, but all I was hearing was this negative narrative. And I said to her, I was like, it was like a lightning bolt. And I was like, oh my God, it's my personality. It was me, just being me, getting through the door, seeing people on a regular basis, just being who I am, warts and all, because I saw them that often that I couldn't be anything else. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Well, I left that meeting and I went out and I went all out just to create a brand that was 100% me. But it took a lot of belief to be just me.
Yes, because you're putting your inner self out there then, aren't you? And you're opening yourself up to people saying, actually, I don't like that. So.
And believing in what you're saying is right, because that's hard. There's another statistic, which is we have on average between 12,000 and 80,000 thoughts per day. 80% of those are negative. 95% are the same thoughts we had the day before. That's our general state of play. Now, when you know this, you can be more intentional about switching those thoughts. Right. That's where self-awareness comes in, because unless you are actually aware that you're doing that, which many of us are not, because it's just a natural state of play. There's two sides of the brain, intuitive and deliberate thinking. And we tend to go with our intuitive, which is very willing, very quick. Oh, we can't do that because, where if we went to the deliberate, which is very much the wise aspect of thinking, but it takes a little bit longer to get there. You have to be a little bit more considerate, and you have to give it a little bit more time to actually go, well, could I do that? Let's, for argument's sake, because belief is evidence-based. And for me, with my business, I had to do this deep digging work. And something that I realised, didn't think I could do all these things in business because of the things that I'd stated. I was too fat, I was too old, I was too, all these things. Yeah. But actually, at the age of 6, when I was in care, I was walking to school on my own by Spaghetti Junction. I don't know if you know Spaghetti Junction.
I do. I'm actually from just south of where you are. So yes, I know Spaghetti Junction very well. Yeah.
So knowing that at the age of 6, I walked to school by myself at the age round by Spaghetti Junction, and focusing on that as a if I can do that at 6, I can do anything. Taking that thought and percolating it and brewing it and really focusing on it gave me a power to just continue to do the things I thought I couldn't. And it was just like, this is self-awareness, but also, the self-awareness that I did that when I was younger, how we are, beliefs breed behaviour and behaviour breeds the outcome. And if we don't go to our beliefs first, which is our self-awareness, then how are we ever going to change behaviour?
Good. Okay. So, yeah, you made me think of the chimp paradox, actually.
Yeah.
There as well. Yeah. So, okay, good. So how have you taken all of that then and made it into a business? How have you made the business model work?
I was very creative for a start. Very sassy for a start. And it was a case of being flexible. And I mean, another skill for me, again, coming out of the care system, is rapid adaptation and resilience and being resourceful. Because when you're a care experienced person, those things are innate in you. Yeah. So it's taking what I call my special set of skills and applying those. But if we all take our special set of skills, but come back a step, we have to identify what our special set of skills are, and we have to focus on those. This is self-awareness in its own right, because I know that I am resourceful. I know that I'm a rapid adapter. I know that I am resilient. So taking those and building, and I know I'm an awesome creative. I always have been. Give me a paper clip and an elastic band and I'll fix a broken window. Do you know what I mean? So,
give that to me and I'll break a window. Yeah.
see how you can, but you're self-aware in that. So, it was really identifying where my skill set was and going, and 20 years of business development, it was like, okay, we need to put these together. If you look at Steve Jobs and what he created with Apple, he took a calligraphy course and a design course, even though he was tech-based. He did that because he had some spare time and he had to take another course or whatever. Put those skills together, and that's how you end up with Apple and iPhone, because the design aspect of it, the tech aspect of it, it's taking that special skill set and it's honing in on it and knowing and being really self-aware of what you can create with that. So for me, it went into working on people's belief, because I'm a natural nurturer. So hence the fairy godmother kind of aspect. It was working on the brand, because I'd got my brand so wrong. I'd represented so many brands. I'm aware of the power of a brand. The brand is your whole personality if you get it right. It's not your branding, it's your brand, because that's where the know, like and trust is going to come from. That's where you build it. Because if your brand fluctuates too much, then you lose your trust straight off, and then nobody's going to buy from you. And then it was the business development. And I truly believe those three aspects. Your biggest foundational layer is the belief. We then move on to the brand, and then your business will develop. And for me, I was wanting my business to develop, but what was happening was the foundational layer of the belief wasn't great. So I had to work on that first. And it's really now, the business has just grown from, it's a mentorship kind of process, because it's like this process works. If we work foundationally on your belief, then we create your brand, because you've got the kick-ass belief for the kick-ass brand to stand out and to be who you are. And when you are who you are, it's effortless, because it's just you.
Yeah, you're not trying to second guess things all the time. And somebody once said to me, you can't get being yourself wrong. You can't get it wrong. Yeah. You get everything else wrong, but you can't get being yourself wrong. You are what you are, and if you're true to that, then that you can't get it wrong. That is you. And there's only one of you in this world. So when you're going all the way back and circling back, I have ADHD, so I'll have to say sometimes I do go off on a tangent. But going back to,
how does that actually work within your business, is being yourself is really hard. When we say it's effortless, it's actually very hard to be yourself because you're scared that what people are going to think when you are you. So that goes back to that foundational layer of, if you believe in who you are and you are who you are, then you will, going back to your question, you will eradicate all competition because there's no other you.
So how do you take, I've only just met you, but I've got a pretty strong sense of your identity coming across, which is fantastic. And I'm sure everybody listening is as well. You've now created a business. How do you get that business, given that the personality of the business is essentially you? How are you going to grow the business? Yeah.
Now that's where some of the deeper work comes in, because you've really got to get to know your values of your business, because without your values of your business, which is all part of your brand, without that, you can't really scale it, because how do you clone yourself, for want of a better word, if it's built around you? Well, you use your values of the business and they will guide you 110%, because now whenever I'm looking for somebody to join the team, freelance or otherwise, I go directly to my values. What are they? So firstly, they start with being real AF. I spell real AF, RHIL AF, and that stands for respect, honesty, integrity, loyalty, and fair exchange. Okay. These are massive parts of my values. So, but that succumbs to being real AF, and how you treat others. So I'm looking for those values straight off in someone. Yeah. I'm then looking for somebody that's sassy, not sorry, that is lively, bold, full of spirit, and a little bit cheeky. Because if we're in a situation where we need to be that, then this person needs to be that as well. So I look for that in a person. Okay. And I always come back to, as well, for CreativSAS, of being playful and prestige. So that's what we're looking for. Now, those are my values. Now, you can take those values into the hiring of your team. You can take those values into location of where your business is going to be, because if it's not playful and prestige, it's not for us. It won't fit the brand. And then you can take it as well with any kind of copy or marketing or anything that you need. I have a team that do a fair bit of my socials now, and I've gone through a few, don't get me wrong, because I had to go through the process to find the right people. But now, in order to write any kind of copy or portray the business or courses or events or anything like that, then the brief is real AF, sassy not sorry, playful and prestige. And sassy really holds a lot of value in this, because it's one of the biggest values. When we write a post, this is just giving you on sort of like a marketing aspect, we go, if it doesn't start with being lively, then hit a bold statement, then be full of energy and spirited, and have a little bit of cheekiness in, then it's not our brand.
Okay.
And anybody can actually do that if they're given the tools and the values and enough direction to do that. Does that make sense?
It does. And you're starting to ask the next question where I was going, which is, how do you take all of your knowledge and expertise in this and be able to deliver that through others in what is a very creative world? You're very creative and you're adaptive, which is great in some aspects, but how do you make that follow through with others, and how will you be able to grow your business through driving performance through others?
Behaviour is contagious when you're around enough people.
Yeah. Okay.
And that comes from belief as well. So if I instill the belief in those people that we can't really get it wrong if we go with this, and I look for people that are not afraid to be creative as well, because being creative is obviously one of our core values as well. It's everything we're about. And also giving them the belief that it's okay to get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's okay you've got to make mistakes in order to make things great.
And how do you make money? Is it a time for money? Is it
there's a time for money aspect, There's a time for money aspect. This year has been huge in, I want to say a scale, but I still think next year will be more about scaling, to be honest with you. This year has been about processes and foundations, because still being an infant business and being just myself, obviously I've been wearing all of the hats. So we've now got some passive income products. We've literally just this week launched the CreativSAS course, which is the Fab Self-Awareness Strategy course, which is a recording version. So now we've got that as a passive aspect. I've got some group programs that we do and we offer. There's a varied product suite, but dependent on the amount of time, dependence on the cost.
Yeah.
So if it's a DIY product, then the cost is really accessible, because that is really, really important to me, that everybody has a fair crack of the whip. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. But all of those products are built with commitment, consistency, and community in mind, because again, these are three things that I feel are really, really important. They're like the magic mushrooms that I'm going to encourage you to take. They're like Super Mario mushrooms. They give you, if you've got commitment, consistency, and community, then these are going to make you bigger, stronger, and help you go further. So, and if something's not quite right in your business, go and check those three things out. Are you really committed? Is your branding committed? Are your team committed? Or is it falling down there? Are you being consistent in everything that you're doing, in your processes, in your socials, in your brand? And then is the community, yourself, you need that community to drive you forward. So, but we have, like I say, we have a different array of a product suite. But if you're working with me on a one-to-one basis, then that comes at quite a cost, to be honest with you. If you're working with me on a group basis, then it's accessible, and there's the ones in between as well.
And I love the fact your creativity is coming through with all these acronyms that you've got.
I'm an acronym queen. Do you know why I'm an acronym queen? Right? Because, and this is me being vulnerable now, I am ADHD, and I'm also a woman of a certain age. So perimenopause is giving me a lot of brain fog over the last year or so. So in order to, for myself to be consistent, acronyms are really important, because they're a way in which to remember, to deliver, for others to remember, and to make it easy, because, nobody wants life that is really, really hard. And I believe in things not being rocket science, and that just taking a common sense, easier approach is better for everybody. So acronyms I am renowned for. And it's a really good tool and strategy within your business, because that's another scalable way of doing things, because it doesn't matter who you are. If you've got an acronym, even if you said to somebody, SAS, for argument's sake, three people down the line will be able to, I know it begins with an S, and I know it begins with an A, and I know it begins with an S, and they're going to get there at some point if I'm not there to direct them, if that makes sense. So an acronym is definitely a creative strategy. Yeah,
excellent. Very good. So what would you say, when you look back over the last 4.5 years, what are your key learnings? What sort of things would you say you got right, and what sort of things maybe with a bit of hindsight would you do differently?
Think what I've got right, but don't get me wrong, it's still hard. And that is, I've got right in just being me and owning it, and owning my wonky crown as much as the one that shines bright. Because the minute you do that, vulnerability really does build connection. And the more I do it, the more I seem to connect with people. So even though you question it when you do it, but that comes back to the belief again. So being myself, absolutely, I've got right. I think the thing that I've got wrong is when I've tried to be anything that I'm not. That's when I do get it wrong. And sometimes some people have to point that out to me, because you'll love this one. Bigger wishes bring bigger self-doubt dishes. So the higher you go, the harder you disbelieve yourself. And sometimes I've stepped in some of the bigger rooms and I've tried to be something that I'm not. And I fall every single time. It doesn't flow. And it's just, I come out kicking myself going, why did you do that again? Well, we know why you did it, because you believe, and you go back to your self-awareness strategy and you just do it again and you rinse and repeat the cycle of, okay, and you bring yourself back to where you need to be. But so I would say they are the main ones. What else have I done right? I've always been aware, I say aware, as aware as I can be and my knowledge allows. I've always been fairly aware of my numbers. And I think being aware that time for money still does cost, and you have to take everything into account when it comes to costs. And being aware, and this is probably one of the smallest things, but, you know, when I went VAT registered, it was literally, as soon as that VAT comes in, put that in a different pot that is not for you. It's not even your money. And like, my accountant thinks I'm an absolute dream. He absolutely loves me because I'm not stressing to find my VAT money and my tax money and things like that. And I think these are things that we sometimes don't think of in business. And it's really, really important, because if you're confident, your whole belief and confidence will come from you feeling safe and secure. And you need to feel safe and secure in the products that you're offering. You need to feel safe and secure in your financials. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you're going to have to take a risk, and sometimes you're going to have to go, well, I'm going to go for this if it works or if it doesn't. Yeah. And, you know, you can't always have a safety net. You can't.
Okay, good. So what are some of the key performance indicators or metrics? You mentioned, you know, your numbers. You know, what are some of the things that you look at to make sure that you're in control of the business?
This is going to be controversial for some. Joy is a massive KPI for me.
Okay, yeah, great.
Because if I am not joyful in my work, then why the hell am I doing this? Because
my colleague would love to hear you that, you know, he kind of, that's his principle. It's his overarching, what he talks about is bringing joy, you know, business for joy. You know, business doesn't have to be boring and worrying and stressful. You know, how can we make it joyful?
It's for playful and prestige. That's where that comes from for me, because if I'm not feeling joy in my business, like being an entrepreneur, it's so funny because everybody becomes an entrepreneur for freedom, yet you work harder for less hours than you do in any other kind of business. If it's not joyful and purposeful, then I just don't understand why people do it. But I don't think they understand it either, because I don't think they're aware. Okay. And this comes back to self-awareness.
So do you measure joy in some way then, or is it just how you just subjective, you know, or do you measure it in some way?
I look at the week I've had, and if I'm getting up out of bed every morning and I'm not looking forward to work and I am tired and I am fed up, then we go back to the drawing board and I'm like, whoa, what have we not done this week? What have we not done? There's lots of my own self-awareness, like I'll cold water dip, and, you know, it's taking that time for me every morning just to get my head straight. And everything, that's time for me. Whatever floats your boat, then you need to make sure that that's there in your business as well. KPI for me as well is that the business is growing year on year, in the sense of its people, its performance from a profit point of view. But and this comes back, blends the two. I have a thing that I call personal profit, and personal profit for me is that I'm creating a life that serves me while I'm serving others. So the personal profit for me is that if somebody says, Jojo, we're doing this, I know I have the autonomy to go, well, I can be there, and I'm not going to miss anything important within my family and my friends. And personal profit that, you know, this weekend just gone, there was no financial reward or anything. I was the MC and host for Acorns Hospice annual fundraiser, which is the Bubble Rush, where all the families come, and a lot of those families have lost children. But they come to remember, celebrate, and be together as a community in a joyful experience. And it's like a fun run. There should never be fun and run in the same sentence in my world. But this is bubble stations that are all foam and bubbles in different colours, and the families get to go around. It's a 5K, either 2.5, 5K walk. And I get to MC that, and it's my third year that I've done that. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than that. And that may sound cheesy to some, but it absolutely fills my heart. So that's personal profit for me. Now, there is money in the bank as well. And this year has been really, when I said to you, we were kind of scaling processes, but personal processes that have needed to be put in place. You know, we're looking at our Dream Forever home, and we want to fulfill that this year, because again, if I'm not happy in my own world, then again, what am I doing this for? And I'm not getting any younger. I turned 50 this year. I had the biggest celebration because I felt like I was stepping into my golden era. And it's really important that this year the financials are right, because in order to get that dream home, the financials need to be in a certain way. So, you know, there's growth in that sense. But I'm also aware that this year, because we have done that, we may not hit where I would have liked to have been. But what I did do was I looked at the financials halfway through the year, and I was like, oh, we're not really on target for where I wanted to be this year for a growth aspect. But when I took another step back and went a bit deeper, actually, I ticked every single box from a personal profit aspect, every single box. So I was like, okay, we're winning.
That's right. So you've already given me an idea of the legacy that you want to leave, because that was all that you said about assisting and helping care experienced people. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
So where do you want to be in 5 years' time? You know, 55, I guess that would take you. You know, where do you want to be?
55, that sounds really old, doesn't it?
It says a few years ago for me.
You don't look a day over 21, Kevin.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the same to you, but
in 5 years' time, I would like to be well on my way to have what I class as my big wish. And my big wish is to have the Children's Home Enterprise, which is the Children's Home Enterprise, another acronym. HOME stands for Hope, Opportunity, Mentorship in Entrepreneurship. I truly, truly believe that care experience people come with resilience, rapid adaptation, and resourcefulness. And for me, they're the key skills for entrepreneurship. And when you've been in care, you need encouragement and guidance and mentorship. But unfortunately, when you're 18, it's literally happy birthday, off you pop. And they fall off a cliff with no mentorship, no guidance. And I just feel I feel like I want them to come out of one children's home into another children's home, because they're not adults, they're 18. You need more guidance than ever at 18, because you're expected to adult, but actually it's really hard and you haven't got the skills. So the Children's Home Enterprise, I would like that to be well on its way. So
is that something that exists in some form or other, or at the moment it's just it's
the vision?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
so,
great. I love it.
Moving back to brand and vision, it's what I do. And the brand is there, the vision is there, and everything I do in all of my businesses, you know, even to some extent with the people that I work with, there's intention there to know that that's where we're heading, and that, you know, we're kind of gathering Avengers as we go, because the amount of people that will be able to help with that, it'll be there, you know, and that's legacy creation at the end of the day.
Yeah, love it. Brilliant. So what's going to get in the way of that? What do you think might get in the way, or is it?
What will get in the way of that? I find that hard to answer, because I want to go, I won't let anything get in the way.
Yeah. And that was my hesitation in asking the question, because I was thinking, you know, you're not going to let anything get in the way of that.
I think, don't get me wrong, I don't see it as being easy. Maybe my stamina, maybe that's the only thing, but I'm working on that. That's my own self-awareness again. You know, I've been eating organic for the last 10 months because I'm aware, being a bigger person, that I may not be, you know, the stamina and everything else. I don't necessarily have to be thin to be healthy. Do you know what I mean? So, that's something that was a real intentional thing, because working with some of the companies I was working with, there was opportunity to be with them all summer for these different events. And I thought my stamina's not gonna do this. So eating organic was one of my strategies, and it's been life changing. So I think there will be things that try to get in the way, but I'm going to keep with my 3 SASs, my community, my commitment, and my consistency, and keep going.
And the resilience and the adaptability. And good. Brilliant. Well, it's been a blast. It's been absolutely, really, really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you very much, Jojo. So you're up for a couple of quick 5 questions before we close. So if we were to go back to the younger Jojo, and I guess you could pick when that would be, but what advice would you give the young Jojo?
I would tell her believe, because it's going to be okay.
Brilliant. Good. We've mentioned a couple of books already, but any books, podcasts, or other sort of learning resources that you'd like to highlight for others?
I'm a big fan of Stephen Bartlett.
Your books, of course.
Absolutely.
Loving Yourself Beyond Belief. I think you said you'd got another one, didn't you?
No, Loving Yourself Beyond Belief. I was a collaborator in another one of There She Glows, but Loving Yourself Beyond Belief is really one that I would recommend. I definitely recommend my course, which is CreativSAS. So obviously I recommend that. But I am a big fan of Stephen Bartlett. And I love the Diary of a CEO podcast, because you get under the skin and behind the curtain of many other CEOs. But if you break it down, all of them are doing the same kind of things. They have to learn about themselves. Don't think all of them are always purposeful. So I do think, sprinkle some of that in, make sure that's your seasoning. But yeah, Stephen Bartlett. And you know what? My own personal mentor, who, like I said, has actually become my best friend, and that's Danny Wallace. And she is really pioneering for enthusiastic inclusion. We're literally and she's the event, the Big Festoon, which is all about doing life and business differently. And she's been a phenomenal mentor and friend to me. And sometimes if you can't see it, you can't be it. And when I saw Danny Wallace doing what she was doing, it gave me the belief to go, I can do that. So yeah.
Good. Are you into your tech? Any particular bits of tech or apps or?
I am the worst tech person. When I started my business 4 years ago, all I could do was bank and shop from Next Online. That's it. So that's all I could do. But from a tech point of view, don't be afraid of it. It's not the how, it's the who. Always find someone that does know, because if you take too long to stress about it, you'll never do it. I use Dubsado for my CRM system.
Yeah.
When I first started my business, if anybody's thinking of starting a business, counting up was a really easy banking situation. It really, really helped me to begin with. What else? Apps wise, I absolutely steer clear of a lot of people love Asana and things like that. For me and an ADHD brain, it just doesn't work. Get yourself the most phenomenal VA or EA, because my assistant is just amazing. And from a tech point of view, just find somebody that can if you can't.
Yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Good. And what do you find is your most successful way of finding new clients?
It's just going to come back to being me again, because it just attracts. Just be yourself. But also, like, social media has been really, really good for me, and being consistent in it. But also finding a way that works for you. Because if you're doing something that you're really uncomfortable in, you're just not going to do it. So it's not going to work. Yeah. So, and go out there and network as well. You need to get out there, and you just need to, if you don't ask, you don't get. So be that little bit cheeky. Go and be at the place, go and do the thing. And make yourself, really, it's about being instantly recognisable. And if you're instantly recognizable, people will just be intrigued and they'll want to get to know you. And then, they'll find the service that you do. And it goes from there, but instantly recognizable comes back to your brand.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, Jojo, thank you very much. How can people get hold of you or find out more about CreativSAS if they'd like to?
They can find me on all the socials, CreativSAS, but it's really important to say that CreativSAS is CREATIV, no E, because that's creative.
Yeah.
SAS, all one word. Instagram, I tend to hang out on the most. You can find me as Jojo Smith on Facebook, or you can go to my website, which is creativesas.co.uk.
Brilliant. Jojo Smith, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today.
You are very welcome.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.